All right, so this is the homemade lathe I made with the Yeswelder 205DS. All right, and it is, I've never built a lathe before. In fact, I only used a lathe once in my life, but I knew I needed a metal lathe. So I bought a bunch of pieces parts, and I bought some pillow block bearings, and the plan was that the 3/4 inch shaft and everything being pulled tight together here would make for a larger diameter overall, because it would all be pulled together. And then I had different pulleys here that would go down. I had an idler that I've taken off. In fact, that's one of the bearings right there. And that would spin this screw, and I had somewhere over here, right here, I've got a half nut right there that worked underneath on here on a pivot. I don't know if this is going to probably give people a little bit of motion sickness, but anyway, the idea is that, and it does work. I've removed the bearings. All of this was riding on bearings and Teflon, and it could drag back and forth. So you set it up over here, and then you hit I pull the lever down here, and then it would drag this in, depending on what speed I'm running at. It's a little bit on the fast side on the cut, but once you get it sped up, it works pretty good. However, I do have one issue, and that is pillow block bearings don't make a good headstock. They get too much play in them, and between the fact that originally I set this up with a 4-inch chuck, and then I decided I wanted a bigger chuck, so I found a 6-inch chuck that would thread on a 3/4 inch fine thread shaft. And so that in itself also creates a problem, because now you get a little bit of flex in the shaft, and it's also not hollow, and I'd like to have a pass-through headstock. So the plan is that I'm going to take this GM small bearing Dana 44 hub, and I'm going to cut this off. We're going to use the new plasma cutter. We're going to try that. It's pretty thick stuff. It's 1/2 inch thick. And we're going to use a GM small bearing spindle right here. And you can actually see where I've done some machining work with the lathe. So it does okay. This was all machined a little bit smaller with the lathe, and I moved this back, and then I also machined this a little bit more. So the plan is again, I'm going to modify this, use this as the spindle. When I get all that machined off and cut off, I'll put the feet on it like this with elongated holes, so that I can true up the spindle, and I can still use shims to get everything aligned. And I did that the last time by using a laser. Also, by doing that, I should be able to raise this up a little bit, because a couple things I want to do. One, this is way too small for what I'm trying to do. There's too much play. This is for one of those little tabletop lathes, and I didn't know what I was doing. So I've got a really heavy duty one that I bought. You're gonna have to bear with me here. I'm gonna dig through all my junk. Right here is a bigger all steel. You can see how much bigger it is. But the problem is that if you use this one, it's going to be above the center line. So I am either going to have to figure out how to lower this down more. So I may end up rebuilding my entire carriage. so I can lower this down. Because this is handy for doing fine stuff. I can do fine movements and that kind of thing. And I know that, and I have, because this was a vise at one time, I can loosen up some bolts here. And I can rotate this. But the pin is sloppy, so it kind of moves it around. And now that I've got the lathe, I can make a tighter pin and machine in a bushing so that it is nice and tight and there is no play when you loosen it up to make the rotations. And a shout out to the young man on Rather Be Welding. It was him and his watching his videos that gave me the idea. It's like, hey, I could build my own lathe. And I'm glad I did, because I've used it actually quite a bit. Enough to know that I made several mistakes and I have to come back and work on them. So I'm going to cut away. I'm going to grab some stuff here, and we are going to get set up to try to use the plasma cutter. I'm going to kind of warn everybody now. I think everybody pretty much knows that I'm fighting brain cancer. And so with that, one of the drugs they have me on is prednisone. And I was already a shaky guy, but the prednisone has really amplified that. So it's making it really difficult for me to do nice clean cuts and pretty clean welds and things of that nature, because the hand tremors are just absolutely terrible. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to cut out here and get everything set up to try to cut the flange off of that spindle. All right, we're going to give this a shot. I don't know how this is going to work out with all of the handshakes. So we're going to find out. We're going to try something here. Got my helmet on. I don't know if I have my helmet on. I've got it turned down to a lighter, a pretty low shade. I think that'll do it. Make sure I'm still on. Yep, I am. Okay, let's see what happens.
Found it easy to quit. Too many times I watched the night turn to day. I succumbed to a rage. I walked off the big stage. I let the whiskey take me away. Oh, the whiskey takes me away to a dream yesterday. I let the devil come in, and he took what might have been. I let the whiskey take me away. Was it the demons inside, or just a stubborn old pride? Was it a woman that led me astray? Saloon, singing worn out old tunes. I let the whiskey take me away. Oh, the whiskey takes me
Anyway, try that again. So, this has all been machined. I cut this shorter and got rid of all of the internal splines for the lockout hub because I don't need it. I also machined where the bearing goes in a little bit deeper. So this should take a seal if I want to, or I can make an aluminum cover that will take a smaller seal to go over the bearings and stuff, because I'm going to have to do something here on top of here so that I can get a 1 1/4 inch ID. I believe that's what I'm going to use. Universal hub collar, so I can get my pulleys and stuff on there. So anyway, that's where I'm at on that. And like I said, that's all been machined and shortened there. And then we just need to work on this, and so that's what I'm going to do today. is I'm letting that cool down just a little bit. Shouldn't take too long. It's pretty cold outside and it's kind of cold in the shop at the moment. So I will turn it on when I'm getting to some good stuff. There's no point of y'all watching my mess. Let's see. As you can see, this has all been machined to fit. I can put a bigger bearing on there. That goes in here, which I've machined. The only thing I need to do is my seal's is protruding a little bit there, so I may knock that seat out here, and that might knock that race out and set that in a little deeper. I don't know. Right now, I think it might work out just fine. Otherwise, the only problem I have is that is a little bit loose. I think it's going to be fine, but once the bearing's in, it wants to ride a little tight. I just don't know. I just don't know what to think about that. So, for example, like that, and I put that in there, you'll see that that rides right on the bearing, and it's probably not a good idea. So I may need to set that race in just a little deeper, and then I'll have to glue that seal in.